Hey everybody, and welcome to Woodcrest Bonsai, and welcome to the tropics. I usually mark the 1st of June, which is the official beginning of the rainy season here, and it's also the official beginning of hurricane season in the Atlantic. And we're a couple days before June, but I'm just too excited. So I switch my focus, especially on root pruning and taking cuttings and doing major work on trees, from my temperate trees and even some of the intermediate trees that can be worked just about any time, to the tropicals. So this guy here is a ficus. It's in the Benjamina complex, but if we look at the leaves, it's not a true Benjamina, and I really don't know what it is, to tell you the truth. If you know what it is, please leave a comment and let me know. I acquired this tree as one from the collection. When my friend liquidated her collection, I acquired numerous trees from her, and this is one of them. So this tree has some interesting characteristics. Sadly, it has some of the worst wire scars. In fact, it has the worst wire scars of any tree she had. And you know, she went through a trauma, and part of the reason she liquidated her collection was she could see that she just wasn't taking care of her trees. Here's some more right here. Here's some on the main trunk, which are not too bad. And there are some, and I don't know if you can see it, but right here, the wire is in the bark so deeply that I'm just going to leave it. And here's the wire I was able to pull out, although I have removed more wire. This was just this morning. And I'm not even going to worry about the wire scars. I'm just not. Interestingly, some of the aerial roots have actually spun with the wire scars, which is pretty interesting. This tree also, if I could turn it around, had a massive trunk chop right here. You can see the trunk itself is about 10 inches before the chop, but based on the thickness of this baby, this tree could have easily been 10, 12 feet high before it was chopped. And this guy is just producing aerial roots like absolutely crazy, especially in the back here. I mean, the aerial roots are just everywhere. And so I'm going to turn this into a banyan, and it's so root bound in this pot. This is a round mica bullet pot, and it wants to get out of there so badly. And I'm going to put it into this huge oval. This is a concrete pot. And concrete pots are, should I say, cheap. And it's already beginning to crack. If you see right here, there's a crack right here. And you can't really tell from above, but the crack almost goes all the way across. So I'm going to actually just add some super glue into the crack to try to reinforce it a little bit. I have a second one of these, and the whole corner fell off, like right here, just snapped right off. So, but it's going to love it. And then I'm also going to try to take the aerial roots. Oh, and here's where the tools I use to get, even a screwdriver, I gouged into the bark in a couple places, but in the back of the tree, so you really can't see that. So like this aerial root right here, that ends up coming back into the pot, I'm going to try to bring it and bring it out, so that when the soil level's here, that this root, even this part here, is in the soil this way. Try to bring it out. It kind of curves back that way, and I'm not going to change that. And then there's also some right here, these small guys. I'm going to do my best to pull them out of the soil and then bring them more like this, so they're angled instead of coming into the pot. And of course they had nowhere to go. So once they're in this pot here, they're going to have plenty of room to come out and You know, this one's twisted around, and I'm not going to worry too much about that. There's some bunch of aerial roots up on top, and I'm going to leave that. And then I'm going to take the tree, if we back off, you can see it's just a big bush, and I'm going to bring all the main branches down so that just by doing that, like this one here, just by doing that, it will turn it into a tree that's at least as wide as the pot. And then I'm just going to allow as many aerial roots as it wants to produce to come down into the pot, so it'll be a really cool banyan. And so the process is to get it out of this pot, prepare the new pot, and also the new pot is so big and cumbersome that once this guy has been transplanted into the new pot, I'm not going to be able to lift the new pot. So I'm going to put the new pot in its place and then repot the tree onto the bench. This is my workbench where I do most of my videos, but I'm not going to be able to lift that pot, so I'm going to put the pot where the tree is going to sit for quite a while, because I just simply will not be able to lift it. It's a four-hand bonsai. It's interesting because the Japanese term for how big a bonsai is actually translates literally into how many hands it takes to lift it. So there's one-hand bonsai, there's two-hand bonsai, which is obviously one person, and then there's four-hand bonsai, there's six-hand bonsai, and there's eight-hand bonsai. And since I only have two, anything that's approximating four-hand or two-person is just too large for me to pick up. But that's not going to stop me. I'm going to just put it on the end of one of my benches and just keep it there. So I think the first thing to do is to wire most of this stuff down, the stuff that I'm going to wire. Then attempt to root prune it and loosen the aerial roots that I want to reposition. Then put it in the pot. And then as I fill it with bonsai soil, I'll be trying to position the roots so that they move out away from the trunk versus like all of these that all move into the trunk. So the first thing to do is just wire everything down. I'm going to try to not trim. I'm going to try to trim as little as possible, let's put it that way. So I'm going to get to doing the wiring. The preliminary wiring is complete. And I tried my best not to go into the old wire scars. So if we zoom in here, we see that the wire's going in the same direction as the scars, but I didn't put it into the scars. And it's also pretty loose. You can see some space right here. Of course, now the task for me is to not let the wire I put on this tree, or not let this wire cut into the bark. And I wired just about everything except for the apex. The apex is a little weak. The apex, you know, we're missing stuff in here, and we're missing stuff in here. So if we pan back out, it needs to be fuller. I'm also thinking that the apex could very easily be shortened so that the tree is much wider than it is tall, which is typically how banyans grow. And we had a couple of roots that got, pardon my shadow, they got pulled out of the pot. But you can see they've got decent feeder roots. And these particular ones, you know, are probably going to dry up before I get it into the pot. But I think I'm going to be able to pull most of the surface roots, the area roots, out like that and reposition them. And I wired just about all the main branches. There may be some excess branching that will not be part of the design once it's completely finished. But for now, I just wired it all down. And the back branch is probably way too long back here. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. Then we have this little guy right here, which is shooting against the grain, hiding the trunk, which I never liked, but I've left him for now. And I am going to do some trimming, but I love to propagate, so when I do the trimmings, I will root them as cuttings. So that's at a future date, probably in the next couple of days. And I super glued the pot, but now I'm going to wait 24 hours for the super glue to set. And like I said, it was not cracked per se or broken per se, but the cracks, actually if you turn the pot upside down, the cracks are even worse. From the top it doesn't look that bad, but it's just a cheap concrete pot. So I'm going to end this video right here as part one. Tomorrow I will do part two, which will include pulling it out of this pot, trying to pull the aerial roots away from the soil, giving the soil a little bit of a root prune on the bottom, and then placing the plant in the new pot and adding new soil. And as I do that, I will attempt to place the aerial roots where I want them. And interestingly, now that I've wired this guy down, it's now 40 inches across. And the pot is only 30 inches, so it's already going to be 5 inches on either side wider than the pot, although I'm not going to plant it right in the middle because that just doesn't look good. Bonsai looks best if it's offset from the middle. That's tomorrow, so thanks for watching part one, and please stay tuned for part two. And of course, if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, I will show you the progress of this tree. And I really think in a year or two, this tree is going to be really cool. I'm going to try to promote as many aerial roots as I can on the lower horizontal branches to get that banyan look. Probably remove some of the top to make it a little shorter and wider, and promote some of the top to fill in. And I'm looking forward to watching this tree develop, and I hope you are too. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. The more likes I get, the more the algorithm sends my videos to other people searching for it. And leave a comment if you'd like. So that's it for this video, part one, part two tomorrow.